Leonardo da Vinci is commonly credited as being the first to invent the parachute. His design in 1483 used canvas stretched over a wooden frame. Like many of his ideas, he never constructed it, but a recreation was made based on his design and jumped by Adrian Nichols in South Africa on the 26th of June 2000. Andrew Garnerin is credited with the first non-rigid parachute design, which was made of silk. He later claimed to have used it to escape from a hot air balloon, potentially making him the world's first parachutist. Parachute equipment has developed rapidly since the FAI recognised it as an official aeronautical sport back in the 1950s. With these rapid advances, the history of the sport is in danger of being lost, and so the Archive project was created.
The purpose of the Archive project is to try to capture the history of the British Parachute Association, which was 50 years old last year. There's been no formal record yet of the story of the association, so in capturing that story we'll also capture the story of the sport from its earliest days in the UK. What do people get out of the Archive project? Hopefully they'll find the story that we pieced together of interest, most of these people will be parachutists. And they'll be able to relate their current day jumping to the things that went on before, and they'll also be able to compare and contrast the differences in the aircraft, the differences in the equipment, the differences in the kind of jumping that went on. Also there'll be a lot of similarities as well in the nature of the sport, perhaps the difficulties they encounter with the British weather, perhaps that's never gone away, these kind of things. The Archive project was started by the British Parachute Association Development Committee last year. Last year was their 50th anniversary, and they realised they didn't actually have the story of the association, which has actually got quite a proud history.
The BPA, they govern the entire sport. We send competitors to world championships all over the world, and in fact we've done quite well. We're the world champions in the ladies four-way, and we've held world championships in canopy formation and things like that. And in fact, we have a lady, Jackie Smith, whose record can never be broke at accuracy. She was the first person ever to get 10 dead centres in competition. And after that, the size of the dead centre, which in those days was 10 centimetres, got changed. So her actual record can never be broken now. But to give you an idea of how the disciplines have improved, a dead centre now is only 2 centimetres. Okay, and we have jumpers who quite regularly will get 3 or 4 dead centres on the trot, one after the other. To date, nobody has had 10 dead centres on the 2 centimetre disc. Okay, or I'm sure that if we do get people getting 10, it'll be moved down to 1 centimetre.
Early parachutes most certainly evolved from Andrew Garnerin's design. But how did the round parachute evolve into the square we use today?
The equipment we were jumping in the early 70s, for instance, was all ex-military. It was a canopy called, it was a round canopy called a C9, which novice jumpers jumped, and even the high performance parachutes called paracommanders were still round. Okay, and then a couple of guys got a parachute called a parafoil, the Jalbert parafoil, and from there the ram air parachute started to develop. And now even first-time jumpers are actually jumping ram air parachutes, specifically designed for sport parachuting.
Almost every aspect of the sport has changed over the years, from the aircraft used to the type of jumping done. The canopy designs have radically changed too, and the methods in which they are attached have had to evolve to keep up.
In the early days of sport parachuting, the device that would attach your canopy and its risers to the harness was known as the cape well. And this is a cape well system here. Various attempts had to be made to evolve the cape well to allow it to cut away and cut away cleanly, cut away reliably. In about the mid-1960s, when the paracommander type parachutes were introduced and the piggyback systems were introduced, it became a requirement that in the event of a malfunction, you actually have to cut away from your main parachute. Prior to that, the deployment of your reserve parachute could take place with your main still attached. Now, of course, we all take the 3-ring release on our own kit nowadays for granted. It's such a simple and efficient mechanism. But way back in the day when people first started having to cut away from malfunctioning canopies, they were faced with very, very different devices.
As equipment advanced, the sport moved away from its military ties and civilian airfields opened. But how and where do these clubs operate? And what were they like compared to the sport as we know it today?
The first club that started in Britain to do with parachuting and skydiving was Strathallan Airfield, and this airfield, Bridlington. Between Strathallan and here, they kind of put the sport in the market and a lot of clubs opened up from them. I think at the moment there's 25 clubs in Britain. There was about 80 others that has now disbanded. Okay, most airfields started as small clubs, mostly because the aircraft then was small. It kind of started off with 172 aircrafts. People progressed on to 182 aircrafts, which took one more student. And they kind of progressed on to the Islanders, where you could take 8 people. And the small clubs then, they were clubs. Nowadays they tend to be big commercial type centres with large aircraft. Nowadays people tend to want to do the quick fix tandem, come and get away as quick as they possibly can and enjoy the tandem ride.
Tandem skydiving didn't exist until the early 1980s, but is now a fundamental part of most airfields' operations. Skydiving is now more popular, more diverse and easier to access than ever before. It has expanded far beyond just deploying a parachute after exiting an aircraft and landing it. But what will we see in the next 15 years? Where will the limits of the sport have reached? And what will have been achieved? One boundary that's being explored now is landing a wingsuit. Gary Connery, pictured here, is attempting to land a specially designed wingsuit and is waiting on nothing more than the weather for his attempt in May. Felix Baumgartner is attempting to set a new world record by jumping from the edge of space. His test jump from around 71,500 feet was a success, and his next move is to jump from 120,000 feet, breaking Joseph Kitchinger's record of 102,800 feet, which has stood since 1960. Perhaps in the future, neither the ground nor the sky will be the limits of the sport.